Chaos Control!
Alright, so this is the part of the video where we will switch things up a bit. Chaos Island is the third area in Sonic Frontiers, and as you may remember, Shadow isn't in that game. He only is mentioned as a cameo by Sonic from time to time, and that line is exclusive to the island. And I guess Sonic Team thought that that was enough of a justification for it to have a whole level in Generations, while Wistopolis only gets a track. Rant aside, that means we can't use the same formula as before, since there can't possibly be a track for Shadow to use, unless you got the DLC. Which is why for this area only, I will instead focus on the DLC tracks as the primordial option, while proposing the main game tracks as secondary. Don't get me wrong, I still believe that there is a fitting non-DLC game track for every challenge gate, but there is absolutely no way it would fit better than the tracks that are directly from Frontiers. That said, the first choice is an obvious one. 1-2 Flowing is the second cyberspace level in the game, and is probably the most iconic due to its high difficulty compared to the others. And with its remix in Crossworlds, I think it's safe to say that this track represents cyberspace as a whole, so there is no way we could ignore this track. As for those without the DLC, Lava Shelter is the last level of the neutral route in Shadow 05. Like the name implies, this level takes place in Eggman's shelter, where lava is used as his defense mechanism. And with Chaos Island having a literal volcano erupt at the end of its section, with lava now flowing in the stage, I believe a fire track which focuses on being in a place surrounded by it really fits. Also in Chaos Island, its lava, like most video games including Shadow 05, kills you instantly. This may seem like an unimportant detail, but this will come back in a bit. Digital Circuit is the second level of the Dark Route in Shadow 05. In this level, Shadow goes through cyberspace to either destroy the government's core program or get a Chaos Emerald with Rouge. The latter mission coincides well with Frontiers' cyberspace, which by completion grants you keys to access the Chaos Emerald. So even though we aren't really in the same cyberspace, it's more about paying homage to it since it is half of the game with the same function. Flame Core, Shadow's fourth level from Sonic 06, is another pretty obvious choice, and that is of course for their similar environments, both taking place near and then inside a volcano. And come on, I don't think they would have specifically taken the song named Flame Core the Volcano for no reason. This could have been interchangeable with Lava Shelter honestly for this level, but the lava not killing you instantly is a trait that is exclusive to Sonic 06, which defined the order that I went with it. If you have the DLC, Find Your Flame is also a good option not only to represent the island, but also the environment of the level as well. Enjoy This World is the 6th cyberspace level of Chaos Island. I picked this one for this mission for 3 reasons. 1. This is the only cyberspace track that has been picked from Chaos Island, so it's here to represent. 2. 3.6 is probably the 3rd most memorable cyberspace track from Frontiers for its music, right behind 4.2 for its original and beautiful level aesthetic, and the previously mentioned 1.2 for its difficulty. 3. The simple message of enjoy this world is surprisingly fitting for Shadow's character arc in this game. The whole point of Shadow's story, not only in Generations, but also 06 and Shadow 05, was to let go of his past and enjoy the present, and nothing is more blatant than a song that repeats this in a loop. I also suspect that this would be the type of song that Maria would have loved to listen to. As for those without the DLC, Black Comet is the last level of the semi-dark route in Shadow of 5. In that level, for Shadow to traverse the Black Arm's poisonous lake, he had to use one of their air saucers. These machines allowed Shadow to somewhat levitate above the lake and fall slowly when in the air. With the Gondola Master Challenge, the function of this platform is kinda similar. Shadow here is using the gondolas to levitate above the spiky ground. The difference here being that by staying on it, you would slowly fall, and by getting off of it, you will rise. By that connection, Black Comet suits this level pretty well. Mad Matrix is the 4th level of the semi-dark route. Just like Digital Circuit before, Shadow here enters a sort of cyberspace, only this time he finds himself in Eggman's computer. So by affiliation again, Mad Matrix is here to represent cyberspace for Act 2's second half, just like Digital Circuit did in Act 1-2. Prison Island is the 3rd neutral route level from Shadow of 5. This level has a few coincidences with not only the mission and generations, but also Shadow's history and frontiers. For starters, this level is similar to the previously selected Black Comet in a lot of ways. Not only do they both have the Black Arms air saucers as their main gimmick, which means that we can apply the same reasoning we used for Act 1-1 here, but also if you listen closely, you'll notice that Black Comet's track is a remixed version of Prison Island. They sound almost identical, so just like we did with previous tracks such as Death Ruins and Sky Troops, Prison Island can be used here to make it feel like one complete level. But it goes deeper than this. Prison Island was where Shadow was detained for 50 years by Gunn before being released by Eggman. Shadow then proceeded to use him to get revenge for Maria by destroying the planet. Now compare that to Frontiers, where you kind of see that same story again. The end has been sealed by the ancients for millions of years in cyberspace before Eggman brought back the Chaos Emeralds onto the islands, and Sonic, after freeing himself from cyberspace, gets used by the end to get revenge on the ancients by destroying the planet. Of course, they are not completely the same. The end is just a being that lives for destruction, but they are both ultimate life forms that got sealed for their terrifying strength, and Prison Island and the Starfire Islands, or to be more precise, cyberspace, were once their cages. They kind of mirror each other, which is why I think this track really does fit here. If you have the DLC, I'm Here is also a good option to represent Sonic Frontiers. Episode Shadow is the track that plays while you're on the world map in the Episode Shadow DLC in Sonic Forces. This is also a remix of the main menu theme of Shadow of 5. I put this for Mephiles' boss battle because when I sat and thought about the correlation between Shadow's story in 06 and his story in Forces, I realized that it's basically the same. Shadow has to fight an old but new rival that he previously defeated that remembers him and wants revenge, but that he absolutely has no memory of. People were not joking when they were calling Infinite Mephiles Jr. at the time. Shadow's story in 06 is basically a deeper and more developed Episode Shadow, so for that reason, Episode Shadow sticks here. We have finally arrived at the final area of the game, Radical Highway from Sonic Adventure 2. This level does not have challenge acts, however it does have an interesting play on its level design. This is the only level, I lied, Space Colony Arc Act 2 as well, that can be played in two completely different ways, since it was designed with and without Doom Wings in mind. So with that fact, I decided to choose Shadow of 5 tracks that really should have been the last levels instead of Radical Highway for the Doomwing versions to keep the idea of Black Doom having influence on the level and Shadow, therefore leaving the versions without the wings with their respective Radical Highway remixes. Starting off with one of the coolest level in Shadow of 5 and my second favorite of that game, Final Haunt, the last level of the pure hero route. In that level, Shadow teams up with Sonic to have their final fight with Black Doom. This really should have been one of, if not the last level of the game, because the context is almost identical to the story with Generations. Shadow finally understands that his true purpose is to be a hero for Earth, and he proves that by fighting Black Doom for the last time. It's a shame that it wasn't, and I think that Sonic Team knew that, which is why they decided to include this and the next level we're going to talk about, which is... The Last Way, the final level of Shadow of 5 in the last story. The story behind this one is basically the same as his Pure Hero one, only way more complete. Shadow learns about his origins from Black Doom before being betrayed by him. Black Doom paralyzes every one of Shadow's friends and him for them to be eaten by his larva. However, Shadow becomes immune to his poison as he is part Black Arms himself and decides of his own volition to stop him and save Earth as he chases him one last time before his final showdown with Devil Doom. Just like Final Haunt, this would have been a way more fitting last level for Shadow Generations. The sequences followed themselves the same way in both games. I have the feeling that they must have not had enough time to make a new level from scratch, so they went for the obvious Radical Highway level, which was for Shadow throughout the whole game, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a shame that the Shadow game doesn't have a Shadow of 5 level. Neo Black Doom, the final boss of Shadow Generations, does not have a hard mode version like the other bosses, or even like the Time Eater in Sonic Generations. However, I do think it would be weird to have a track for every boss in both Sonic and Shadow Generations to just leave out the final boss of the second half. So I decided to give him one anyway. Now I know what you might be thinking. Blue Falcon, one of the two bosses sent by Gun in Shadow of 5, which is not particularly tough in any way, isn't really the best pick for the final boss of Shadow Generations, who is none other than Black Doom no less, the complete counterpart to Gun in that story. However, my choice here is more defined by the meaning of Gun as a whole to Shadow rather than just the boss fight. Forgiven or not, Gun has been the catalyst for all of Shadow's problems and hatred in his life. From storming his own home, to murdering his best friend, to sealing him for 50 years, to driving his creator insane, which led him to reprogramming his memory to betray his best friend's wishes, to even, allegedly I'm just guessing, sealing him again in a different timeline for unjustified reasons. Gun should be hated by Shadow for as long as he breathes, but despite all of that, he still managed to overcome all of it and make peace with them. So if Black Doom's goal to reawaken Shadow's hatred by bringing back Radical Highway where it was at its peak again, what track would fit best than the one that is played in every single Gun related boss fight in Sonic history? Also, coincidentally, the boss itself, Blue Falcon, appears as the second to last boss fight in the Pure Dark route in Shadow of 5, as a last-ditch attempt from Gun to stop Shadow from getting to the Eclipse Cannon to destroy Earth, another case where Shadow's hatred for humanity was at its peak. All of this evidence made it hard to ignore Blue Falcon as the last track fit for the final boss of the game, and also the end of this video. If you don't have the movie DLC, because next up, Shadow's DLC is focused on making a link between the fans that got into the series through Sonic Movie 3 with the main series. That also means that these fans just got to meet Shadow, so we need to go through the basics. I'm sorry, but if it wasn't obvious, having the music DLC is required for the last two challenges. I Am All of Me is Shadow's main theme in Shadow of 5. Shadow has a ton of vocal themes in that game, but there are only 3 that seem to be definitive, or rather canon, for him. All Hail Shadow, of course, another one we will get to in a second, and of course, I Am All of Me. This song plays at the intro and at the end of the game if I'm not mistaken. So if you want to introduce or know Shadow, this song is quintessential to his character and to the fan base. Never Turn Back is the last vocal track that plays during the credits of the last story. Just like I Am All of Me and All Hail Shadow, this song is really important to understanding his character, especially after playing through Shadow 05. The song blatantly tells you what Shadow plans to do with his past after everything that happened, that he'll never turn back to it and keep on moving forward. Again, if you just got into Shadow's character, this is a must to know, and is also the reason why, just like the original Shadow 05, we end on this.